During the week that I was gone, big storm blew through here on the bay. And one of the things that happened is it blew my mizzen mast off the cheap plastic sawhorses that I had bought locally. So I headed to the lumber yard, got some 2x4s, made some new stronger sawhorses, and got the mast moved back up on those. Now with that done, I was able to finally install my radar cable since the longer one had come in. So here we see it getting pulled through the mast and yes, coming out the other end. That completed my wiring projects for the mizzen mast. With the washdown pump mounted, the electrical run and the hose run from up to the deck. Now it's time to get some water to it. My plan was simple. I would just go into the forward head, tap into the through hole that feeds the toilet, and run that water to the washdown pump. Well, as would have it, a previous owner used a cheap plastic fitting he got at either Home Depot or Lowe's to run that line, as you see here. Folks, do not use those cheap plastic fittings. They break off. Here you see the end broke off, and here again you see where I attempted to try and do what I could do to get it out. After 2 weekends of trying, I'm admitting defeat and having the yard take it out for me. I spoke with Costa and he's going to take the ball joint off, have a guy outside making sure that the through hole doesn't spin, and then we'll move forward. I'd like to take a break here at the channel from all the action and ask you if you enjoy what you see here on the channel, go ahead and hit that subscription button. We'd really appreciate it. Also, give us a thumbs up. The positive feedback is always enjoyed. You've been listening to this channel, you've heard me talk about Pacific Yacht Systems and their 4-part series they did on marine wiring. When I watched that series, one of the things I realized that I had not installed properly was the inverter. So this weekend, I started taking care of that. The very first thing I did was install a positive disconnect for the inverter on the 12-volt side. Now the next thing that I didn't do right was that I did not ground the case at all. So the first part in that is to make up a grounding wire. Pacific Yacht System recommends that your grounding wire be at least one size smaller than the wire you have going in. I have 2-aught wire going into mine. I read through the instructions. They recommend a minimum of 8 gauge. So I got 1 gauge wire, so here we see the end with the battery lug on it. Now going into the case, that size lug would not fit. So I got these reducers here that go on the end of the cable and then slide into the lug on the case. Here we see the wire all made up with the reducer on one end and the lug on the other. Next thing is I installed a negative bus bar that I'm going to run all of my negative grounds to and then ground that to the engine. So here is the bus bar. With the bus bar installed, I then took my grounding cable, mounted it to the back side of the inverter, which you see here, the yellow line coming out. There you can also see the positive disconnect going in. And then I hooked that up to my negative bus distribution bus bar, which you see here. And to top it all off, I also installed my new fuse panel inside the engine room that I'm going to use to protect all of the new electronics, since there's so many different fuses and I just don't have enough space on the current breaker panel. Like most of us, I have the standard shore power socket on the side of my boat, 30 amps. Now I've been thinking about changing that out to one of the new smart plugs for quite a while. So I took the dive, bought one of their conversion kits, and decided to install that. Now, I purchased this on my own, so this review and install has nothing to do with them, and I'm not supported by them in any way. But as usual, if you're out there listening, I'd love to get a free setup for my second plug that I have to do. With that said, let's go ahead and jump in and start with the install. Now the conversion kit comes with a new shore side socket and a new end for your cord. So here you see this shore side socket. Wow, that's a mouthful. And one of the things I noticed right off that it was really well constructed. Nice and heavy. The inlets for the wires are clearly marked. Sorry about the bad photo here. Also, the connections are deep inside the socket, and it has very heavy duty, well constructed set screws that are easily tightened down and secured quite good. Here you see the power lines coming into the back of the shore side socket all tidied up, and then on top of that they give you a nice cover plate with a good exit line. Really well done. With the shore side complete, it's time to move on to the plug. Now the plug comes with three major components. Of course, the orange plug. There's a rubber boot that seals your cable from the plug, and a white insulation cone, which is kind of hard to see here but is really useful. So you cut off your old plug, slide that white installation cone over the exposed wires, then you start pushing that through the rubber black cone. Now the instructions tell you to make sure that you use a soap and water lubricant, and it is imperative that you do that. I started off not using it and it was quite a long process. So make sure you keep that existing cord lightly lubricated with some water and soap, and it should slide right up there. Now with your cord slid through the rubber boot, you get here to the back side of the plug, and once again you're going to see nice clearly marked entrances for your three lines and those big heavy duty set screws. Go ahead and tighten them down to the appropriate color. Also, you'll see here two little black looking finger things. Those go around that cord with two screws, and they hold that cord real solid to also help keep that line from pulling out of the back side of the plug. With that done, you just assemble the cover on the plug, put the seals on, and here you see the completed product. Really nicely done. Big clear silver prongs there that you use to connect and disconnect the plug, and there you see that black rubber heavy duty boot that was such a challenge to get up over that cord without the soap and water as prescribed by the instructions. Then all there was left to do is to test it out. Here you see the completed shore power side and cord plugged together. It snaps right in really easy. I'm going to give this a big 2 thumbs up. I know they seem a little pricey, and they probably are, but then it seems like they're well put together and well thought out. I'm going to go ahead and get another one for my other shore side socket. Well, that wraps it up for another edition of the vlog. Thanks for stopping in. If this is your first time at the channel, go ahead and hit that subscription button. We really appreciate it. One of our big goals here is to simply grow the channel so it can get really large someday. So as always, thanks for stopping in, and fair winds.